Now we're near the end of the process of putting the pieces together. So I want to show you, I have the pedestal made that I made last time, and then I hollowed it out inside. So you want to make sure that you have not too thick a wall in there, but still thick enough to support the pot that's going to go onto this pedestal. So first thing I do is level it, make sure it's fairly level. So it could use a little bit of leveling here. So I gotta check it both ways. That looks pretty perfect there. So just have a little bit of, so this is a little paddle that Jack Troy made, and I'm just gonna give it a little tap. Oh, that's looking pretty good. If you wanna get real technical about it. Okay. So that looks good. Then I'm gonna test, this is the pot that I made that's gonna go on top of the pedestal. And I did cut the bottom out, so you have a ring for attachment here. And I'm gonna sit this up and just make sure that this is pretty, sometimes I don't really care about level, but on a piece this straight, I do want to have it pretty level. So that side needs to come up just a tiny bit. I'm just gonna give it a little bit of a tap. And that should do it. Okay. So now I want to go ahead, and this base is a little bit bigger, but you'll see how I resolve that in a couple of seconds here. So I'm just going to go around with this serrated edge rib and just give it a little, you just want to scuff it. You really don't want to have big, deep cuts because that can trap air. So I want to do the same thing to the base. So I'm just gonna go around and just get that scuffed up and roughed around there a little bit so you have better surface area to get them to adhere to one another. So I do a pretty good little scuffing and rough it up pretty well. Then I'm gonna do some, this is straight vinegar. I've tried different things, straight water, magic water, that kind of stuff, but I think just the vinegar works the best to stick them together. Sometimes with magic water, they wanna peel apart, and I don't know exactly why, but don't know the science on that one, but a lot of people swear by it. But for me personally, vinegar just works better in this application. Okay, this base dried for about 3 days under plastic before I dug it out. You have to stiffen it up enough so that when you dig it out, it doesn't start to morph and collapse. So I dug it out and then let it dry under plastic for another day. And then I let this one dry for 2 days. It's pretty humid right now in Maryland. So I let it dry for 2 days under plastic, took it out, let it dry in the air a little bit, and then trimmed it and cut the bottom out. You could throw it bottomless, but sometimes that's a little more difficult in the throwing. It wants to kind of let go of the bat. So I kind of like to, when I trim a piece, just cut the hole out of the bottom at that point. So you'll see that the base sticks out a little bit over the pedestal. So that's not a problem. Just cut it off. Because we're gonna cover this with some rocks, so it doesn't even matter that it's a little bit larger. I like to get them as close to matching as possible. Often I don't have to cut this, but I wanted my base, my pedestal, to be just a little bit more narrow at the top. So I cut away some more of that when I was sculpting it. And so there we go. Then I'll just go around and make sure that's all nicely attached. No air bubbles in there. The other thing about cutting a hole in the bottom of the vase still keeps it functional because the base has a platform, so you don't have to worry about that. It just cuts down for me on cracking, and I just want to make sure everything is really attached and leveled as much as possible at this point. And then I start the process of putting rocks on. So I'll just rough it up a little bit. So I want to go here where maybe this guy's jutting out. And I kind of wait to do the rocks on the vase because I really want to build this and look at it as I go. I don't make a vase and then sit it down into the base because I really want to create this, you know, as I'm going here. So sometimes I'll do this. The clay is pretty soft, so you really don't need to do a lot of that. And then I'll just go ahead and Put some vinegar on that guy. Never have had any of these come loose. They do really well. So I'll just go ahead and start building here. And this process takes a while because I'll build it, I'll add rocks, then I'll cut away. I might build some more. So there's just a lot of back and forth with this process and then I'll build on the top, but I just want to show you this quickly so that you can get an idea of how I attach things. So always with the vinegar, always with very damp. And this is a different clay. This is a stoneware body that I'm building onto a porcelaneous stoneware body. They have different shrink rates. So when I first tried it, I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen here. They're gonna fall apart in the wood kiln or something bad's gonna happen. But honestly, it worked out pretty well because they didn't come apart as I had thought they might. So I was really lucky in that. But it takes a lot of experimentation, a lot of playing with different kinds of clays to see what works well together, a lot of loss. There's a lot to deal with when you're combining different sorts of clay bodies like that. But I found some that work, and I'm very happy about that they do so well. And in fact, the stoneware body, because I'm firing pretty high to cone 11 or 12, actually tightens, I think, around. I still have more experimentation to do, but I think it actually tightens around the smooth form. And so you've got a really tight bond there. I could just put a great big piece on here and cut away, but I think putting it on in segments really helps it not crack off and not break because you've got some smaller pieces of clay you're adding. So, and then I just diminish the size as I'm going up the side. And then on the other side, I might put some other, and I'm pushing as I go, so I'm always readjusting and trying to level this as much as possible. But I'll do that final work in the end.